Hey guys, today we're here at Sen Nutrition in Queensland, the mecca of feeding, and we're here to talk to Brian and Peter about why feeding is an investment and the horses reach their maximum potential on Sen. I'm here with Peter and Brian now to talk about Sen. So Peter, why is Sen different than any product on the market?
Well, James, I think we come from a foundation of a lot more roughage than a lot of other sort of training stables, and what that means is we try to get the horses healthy, not just physically but mentally, and obviously with a lot more roughage in the diet, the horses are a lot more calmer. The gut function is a lot better, and we do have a better chance of not having horses with ulcers, unlike some of the other racing stables that obviously underfeed the roughage and then have to medicate the problem once it comes about.
That's great. So Brian, why do the horses jump out of the ground on the racetrack?
Well, what we're trying to do is we're trying to aim to get them to reach their full potential. So supporting their body systems in every way. And as Peter touched on, if you get that gut health right at the start, 70% of the immune system's there, you can promote more stamina through that area. And as James has seen firsthand down in Sydney, he had better recovery in his horses, and I think it's as they build through the prep is what you want them to do instead of fall away. So it's just promoting a better energy profile.
So down in Sydney, we experience vet bills of next to zero with feeding Sen. Why does the product allow us to do this, Peter?
James, so to give you an example, is we don't add any cooking oils into the actual pellets itself. So what happens is we feed our Sen oil, which is flaxseed oil, on top of the feed rather than inside the pellet. Because what happens is when you put an oil into a pellet and it gets heated, it oxidizes, and that oxidation, when the horse eats it, causes free radicals, and the body's got to get rid of the free radicals. So the horse is actually burning energy getting rid of free radicals rather than using energy for performance. So that's just one example. Is we've got a very high vitamin mineral profile as well in our pellets. So that's why with our feed, there's a lower feed rate compared to some of the other feeds. It's purely because we don't skimp on the vitamins and minerals. We have them at a high level, and we also use chelated vitamins and minerals, and Brian will go into that, how they differ from the normal synthetic ones.
Yeah, so when you look at the Australian soil profile, so you might feed hay in your stable, we're trying to match the trace minerals that interact with each other, and as Peter touched on, if they're chelated, they're better quality, they're better absorbed. So we're trying to work with the horse's body systems to promote and support each part of it so that they can repair when they recover, and we're not unnecessarily filling their diet with unnecessary things like sugars, starches, or even like an overload of grain. So we're a high fiber, good quality protein, good quality fat program, which really promotes anti-inflammatory properties. So then you limit the use of medications or vet intervention.
So at Rose Hill, we noticed that we were able to prep the horses for longer, and they were able to sustain more runs during the prep and also maintain that performance. Could you just explain to us why the feeding attributed to this?
Yeah, James, it's purely because the diet is balanced. So we don't, our pellets are not high sugar, high starch like some of the other ones on the market. So by having the right amount of protein, the right amount of fat, the right amount of fiber more so, we can extend the prep for a lot longer. Also by adding the oil into the actual pellet itself, you don't get that oxidization, as I mentioned previously. So naturally the horse's immune system is a lot stronger, which means that it can get performance, but it also delays the onset of lactic acid. So a lot of people don't know that by feeding fat separately into the actual feed itself, you're delaying the onset of lactic acid by obviously delaying those glycogen stores for when you need them in that last 200, 400 meters of the actual race.
Could you just explain to the viewers as well, the glycogen stores, what kind of energy is that and where does it come from in the feed? And also maybe touch on why other feed products may have too much of these sugars and starches.
Yeah, so majority of the diets on the market, I'm not going to name any feeds, but the ones you feed 4, 5, 6, 7 kilograms of, they're all grain based. So basically, grain is sugar and starch, and that's obviously what you need for the glycogen stores. The problem is if you feed too much grain in any one meal or any one sitting, it goes through the wrong digestive pathways, and then it causes more problems than what it does good. So I'm not saying you don't need grain, you just need grain in a balanced amount. And what you want to do is then you want to tailor that work to the grain as well. So that's the next obviously step that we'll cover later in this interview. But a long story short is that a lot of trainers are feeding too much sugar, too much starch, and then they have to work the horses a lot harder to work off that grain, which basically means they've got to deplete those glycogen stores a lot more often because the feed that they're feeding is topping them up too often, almost in a way.
That's excellent. Did you have anything to add, Brian?
Yeah, so furthermore, when you do overdo the sugars and starches, it hurts that immune system function in the digestive tract. It makes the hindgut more acidic, so you're running into other metabolic problems like laminitis, and then you have to reach out for vet products to treat. So what we're trying to do is balance everything from the foundations, and then we're going to really get that horse reaching its ability from the inside out through its body systems and that efficiency of energy, as Peter mentioned.
At Rosehill, when we were feeding Sen, we were able to get the horses fitter a lot quicker and maintained, throughout the prep that peak fitness. How does this work through feeding Sen, Peter?
So once again, James, when you have a balanced diet, which is balanced in protein and fat and fibre, you're feeding the energy pathways for those type 2A muscle fibres, which are the majority of muscle fibres in a racehorse. And you know this, but a lot of other trainers and owners don't know this, that when you feed a balanced diet, more fat, more fibre, you can actually work the horses a lot easier. Like, I don't mean less work, but I mean less speed. And a lot more, obviously, with a lot more even work and what so forth, which is much safer to the actual horse itself because you're not going around high speeds around turns, which is what causes a lot of those which does not cause a lot of those leg problems. So what you do is when you feed balanced and you're feeding to work that the calories that the horse is actually consuming, you're getting the horse fitter quicker and maintaining that fitness because they're not dropping condition throughout the prep, because basically you get them fit a lot quicker, you can maintain the fitness through racing, and hence you get more racing out of each prep. And the benefit for that as an owner is that they're running in more races, so the potential for that horse to earn more prize money for the owners, it might be 3, 4, 5, even up to 6 races more in a particular prep. So there's many advantages for the owners as well as having a healthier horse.
That's excellent. Did you have anything to add, Brian?
Yeah, it's just further on for what Peter said. We're trying to promote more stamina in our profile of nutrition, and that's seen as what you've said down in Rosehill with longer preps because you're not having to work the horse as hard. So, yeah, that's probably as much as I can add.
Fantastic. As you can see, we take feeding as an investment and not just a cost with the stable. And I'm very grateful to have Peter and Brian behind me in the stable. Brian was actually a blood scientist and still looks at bloods for the stable just so we can keep on top of any deficiencies or anything being missed through the feeding of these very valuable racehorses and continue to get the best out of them. If you have any questions about feeding or nutrition, please reach out and I'll personally get Peter and Brian to answer them for you. Thank you.